Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for once again signing up to listen to me talk for an hour. I know y'all are lucky. I know BT loves it. And to our students who are here with us this summer, thanks for joining us. So for those that are new to this, this is something we try to do every other month. Is provide a communications workshop on a variety of topics. And because a lot of us do so many presentations outside of board meeting, of course, and task force meetings, we thought that this would be another good topic. And Michelle told me that our students have to present something at their end of their summer internship. So hopefully this will be, you'll get some good notes out of it, and happy to talk and answer questions along the way. I want to make sure I'm recording. Yeah. All right. For those of us on Zoom and in the room, my name is Chris Yandel. I am the Associate Commissioner for Strategic Communications here at the Board of Regents. So website, social media, pretty graphics, handouts like the ones you have, PowerPoints, that's all comes into my shop, along with my number 2 here, Elise Shelton, who is playing paparazzi this morning.
Forgot about the shirts.
Yeah, I know. I also handle swag. I'm trying not to get out of the swag game. So presentation. So for those in the room, how many of us love presenting? Yeah, crickets, right? How many of us have been in a presentation that felt longer than our commute to work? Because there's some that are like ridiculously long. They stand up here and they read the slides like this. It's annoying. So I presented this to the commissioner. She's like, love it. Everybody has to present something. And this is going to be presenting outside of board meetings. So I'm going to show an example of board stuff, but this is more when you're at a conference, maybe presenting to staff during a PD or a workshop like this. So this month, presenting with a purpose, with an asterisk, also known as avoiding death by PowerPoint, because we have all died by PowerPoint at some point in our lifetime. So why do presentations matter? Presentations shape trust with an audience, understanding of material, buy-in of a topic or idea, especially if you're trying to sell a vision or an idea of a strategic campaign, for instance, and decision-making. Why do you think presentations help build trust? Why would that be?
Sure. I was like, there's depending on your presentation style and the content that's contained within the presentation, it gives the audience a clear idea that you understand and know what you're talking about. So they're more willing to listen to what you're saying.
Yeah, you're essentially the content expert.
Right.
In front of the room. You want to be the content expert. I've been in presentations where I'm like, I don't think you should be presenting on this. And I think we all have at some point. Here's what most presentations will do, or excuse me, not do. Here's why they mostly fail. And I hate that this thing is there, but whatever. Too much text, which is an oxymoron when it comes to some of our board meeting materials. That's because we have to have that. It's procedural. We need to be a little bit verbose on our slides. There's no clear point. So there's just a bunch of things on there and you have no idea what the hell the point is. Reading slides aloud. In my class at LSU, in their group presentation project at the end of the semester, I will dock a student a letter grade for their group presentation if I find them reading off the slides. To me, that means you don't know them. So if you're using it as a crutch, that's an issue. Over-designed visuals, we all like pretty pictures, but sometimes if what's on the screen is overdone, what are you supposed to focus on? And then finally, again, no audience focus. Too much text, no clear point. You're reading aloud, so you're missing some cues. And then if you have over-designed slides, which we will show examples of some of the stuff we do in hopes that you see how everything works. That's how you lose your focus. So another funny slide, because if you've listened to me before, you know I like doing funny things. So our buddy Dilbert here. Dilbert, I'm going to let y'all read that because somebody concludes a 2-hour presentation. Dilbert says, did you intend for that presentation to be incomprehensible, or do you have some sort of PowerPoint disability? And then the presenter asks, are there any questions about the content? And Dilbert, this would be me. There was content, question mark. It's because you have so much stuff on a screen, or you're going all back and forth, or you have fancy animations and all this other stuff that's covering up for what you're presenting for. Now, Patrick, has there ever been an interesting audit presentation?
It's kind of cut and dry.
Yeah. But can the content be interesting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Do people try to do a little bit too much to make it interesting and it becomes distracting? Or is it just you want to get in, get to the point, get out?
A lot of times I find that at least the ones that I've been a part of, it's been getting in and getting out, but
Yeah.
what they try to do, because it's audit and it's technical at times,
Sure.
it becomes a little too much for the audience, I think, especially people that's new to it or
Yeah.
trying to learn, because it's a lot of words and points they're trying to put out there.
Got it. So, not really a Dilbert fan, but I found this comic strip and I'm like, this is actually kind of to the point. Because we've all sat in on 2-hour presentations and you're like, please, for the love of God, can somebody unplug it? And it's still going.
Oh, shoot.
Sorry, my clicker is not working. So with that in mind, you want to start with your audience. And I moved this slide up in my presentation for a reason. Because you want to structure your presentation based on your audience, but you have to ask yourself these 3 questions. What do you need your audience to know? So this goes back to, is this a educational, informative presentation? Are you giving a report, presentation on, say, the dual enrollment report? If you're Malin or Michelle, one of the task forces, and you have to give some sort of report, who's your audience? Do you have to simplify what's on your screen, or do you need to be over descriptive? What does your audience already know? You do have to make an assumption here. You can't assume they know everything. So there's going to be some items you have to discuss that they may already know, but you have to set the table because there's going to be people in the audience that have no clue what you're talking about. And then what is the call to action or the takeaway you want your audience to have? So for those of you that have sat through, I think this is Communications Workshop 7 or 8 over the last year, I always end with a takeaway or a call to action because I want y'all to have learned something that you can apply in your day-to-day work. So here is a formula because I love formulas, basic ones at least. And this is on the handout for those in the room. And for those on the Hollywood Squares, I will email all of this out later today. So you want to start with what's happening, okay? And then you have to explain why does it matter and what should happen next. So step 1, step 2, step 3 equals a not boring presentation, most likely. There could be boring presentations, but if it tells you what's going on, it explains why it matters and what you should do about it next, then your presentation should be A-okay. Thoughts, BT?
Well, I mean, when you're dealing with certain content, I mean, it's inevitable it's going to be boring, but you still want it to be effective. I mean, because I know our stuff. Well, I found this out after time, and that's where some of our stuff came. Our role was to help simplify or to circle back after the presentation and say, hey, was there anything after the presentation, you know, like when we were back in the office, hey, was there
Mm-hmm.
anything that you didn't, you know, ask about? Because some of the people may have been new to the position and
Sure.
they didn't want to be the only one raising their hand, so we would, you know, circle back like that. But sometimes it's just inevitable that the information is going to be boring, but you still can give energy.
Yeah, for sure. If the presenter, not to say that I'm not boring, I listen to my kids, I am boring because I'm a dad. But if you have a presenter or a moderator or somebody facilitating it, that can, like you said, put a little energy into it, crack a joke here and there. You have a breakup slide somewhere, so it's not as monotonous or monotone. That really helps. So there's one core message I want everybody to remember or to ask yourself. If your audience remembers one sentence, what should it be?
Your main
Yeah, for those of us that were at the June board meeting last week, we have been reciting the 3 letters, 2 colors, 1 state mantra in our sleep, whether intentionally or unintentionally. But that's a good example that's what everybody remembers from the presentation.
Right.
They're not talking about the transfer. They're talking about the element of that brand storytelling, which is crucial. But yeah, I caught myself a few times like typing something like, yeah, 3 letters. I'm like, nope, gotta stop myself. So you want to adapt your style to the setting. So presentations, I mentioned a few slides ago, they're based on event and context. So the first one, I'm going to start with board and task force meetings. So many of us, if not all of us, have been to one or watched one. They're more formal and structured in tone. So for a board meeting, for example, you'll notice the presentation slide titles, typically agenda, whatever. There's a few times where we'll change it just based on content, but almost every time it follows the agenda number and subletter and subhead and so forth. They can be text heavy. We have gotten better at cutting out the text on slides or taking one slide, making it 2 to break it up. Because there are times, so for the August board meeting, it's going to be a lot of policy stuff. So expect a lot of text heavy slides, but I'll do my best to break them up so you're not reading a small novella on the screen, which can be hard at a distance. And the slides often serve as a written record for our board meetings. I get calls from media. They want the slides so that can help them write their story or do their reporting. They are public record. And then the pace allows for more detailed discussion, which again, we saw that when President Roos spoke. We saw that when those supporting Southern University's chemical engineering program spoke. It's built that way for a reason. So you'll see some of our slides. So this one on the screen is our main one for our master plan slide deck. It is not designed in PowerPoint, but it's designed to be visual appealing so you can look at it, you know what it is. The next example is something that ASA did in their MJ Foster Promise annual report. It's a large table, but it has a table header. As I mentioned, you'll see agenda item 6.C.4.A, which is where it is in the item of materials. And then you'll notice we have our source subtext below the table. Here's another one from last meeting that revolves around the budget. So when it comes to tables, we have to play around with them a little bit so that the text is not so small that it's illegible, but we want it to be able to still tell that story with as little text as possible. The title, the subhead, tell everything you need to know. And I think I have one more. And then here's another one from Tristan's slides for the momentum framework. It's simple, it's visual, but this is different to what we would do for outside presentations. So now we go to everything else. You want to be engaging and visual first. So you want to think about when you're talking, what is going to be the visual behind me Do I want to have 8 paragraphs of text that people are trying to read that they may miss, say, a visual cue I made, or I could be saying something that's not even on that screen and you completely missed it. So what kind of visual do you want behind you? So much like the position we take with our new website, less text, more imagery and visuals. You want it to be conversational, audience focused, and you want it to be designed to be experienced, not read. Presentations, not all of them are enjoyable, but like TED Talks, they're experienced. People sign up to listen to fantastic speakers. They're not reading stuff off of a screen. This is what we're going to focus on. So you need to know your room before you build your slides, and that format should fit your audience. So this has not been publicly announced. I hope no one from Lewis is on here. But I'm the keynote speaker for their Luck Users Conference in October. I am scared out of my mind because it's 30 minutes. I'm going to have to practice for about 2 months so I can get cadence and tone and rhythm down so I'm not reading off a screen. I'll never be like Dr. Reed giving a presentation, but if I can be like somewhere in the parking lot of the ballpark, I'll be A-okay with that. That is. So I know that that room's gonna be 250 librarians or deans of library science. So it's not a communicator room. I'm still gonna talk about communications, but I have to fit to them and make them understand that it all matters to each of us. I just have to present it at a different angle. So here's a suggested structure for organizing your content. Opening hook. Anybody know what a hook is?
Like the break, icebreaker or something? Or
Grabs your attention.
Like
Like a hook.
a hook on a song.
Catch the fish. You want to hook it. And usually, so if we're talking social media, videos, it's within the first 2 to 3 seconds. If you're talking presentation, first 5 seconds. Like any public relations campaign, it's going to have a problem or an opportunity. So you either have a problem you're trying to solve, or there's an opportunity that no one's taken advantage of yet, and you have the opportunity to chart a new course for whatever you're presenting on. Key points. So this is completely against everything we do in board meetings, but key points you want to do like 3. 3 is usually a pretty good number in terms of big ideas or key things you want to discuss. And then call to action. What do you want the next steps to be? Are we discussing the new policies being implemented? Are we talking about a new initiative that Academic Affairs is doing and that it requires next steps? Or for like our Lewis libraries, they're making a huge dramatic software shift for the first time in 25 years. So it's things like that that you want to think, what's the action? What's the next steps that the audience can take? And then a clear closing. You don't want to give next steps like, all right, the end, peace out, drop the mic and leave. Unless you're just like some TED Talk savant that you can drop the mic. Any questions? I see y'all scribbling notes. I appreciate it. You're going to get the slide deck, I promise.
remember as I take notes though.
All right. So less information, more clarity. What do you think is going to be on the do not do this list?
Not a whole lot of text. Don't put a whole lot of text in it.
Okay. Paragraphs of text. There you go. All right. What do you think is next?
Don't read from the slide.
Close.
Distracting pictures or
I don't know if you're going to be able to read this.
Dang.
Small text.
Text.
I think that is 3-point font that I was able to do in PowerPoint. Yeah, my students were reading it. They're like, I can't read this. Like, that's the point. And then what do you think? There's a third one. What do you think the third thing is? which kind of goes contradictory to what I've been doing.
I guess when I think about a presentation, it may not fit this particular scenario, but I know when some people give presentations, they give a lot of, and I know you want to be clear, in terms of clarity, you want to give a clear understanding of what an acronym may mean, but they use a lot of acronyms in their presentations, and people like, what is that? Because they don't know.
I like where you're going. I didn't do it.
Okay.
Instead, I said a bunch of bullet points, which if you notice, I've used a bunch of bullet points. You can read all the bullet points I wrote. I think they're kind of funny. They might be dad joke-ish. All right. So you don't want to put just a checklist of things.
Gotcha.
So you want a headline, clear, one line, like the one on this one. One stat and one visual. That's typically, if you want to be clean, minimalistic, and help the audience understand what's going on, a 1-to-1-to-1. I use this example, again, not designed in PowerPoint, designed in Photoshop, but it's what we use across the master plan presentations. A clear image of a graduate talking about our all-time attainment rate with the number. It's clear, it's simple. We all know what it means. So how to avoid death by PowerPoint. This one was fun to make. So as Professor Chang from Community says, don't use tiny text, okay? Don't use paragraphs of text, because then we're all trying to read while you are 20 slides later. Don't put a bunch of confusing things on there like formulas and charts without any explanation, because the charts may be cool, but what do they mean and why should I understand them? I couldn't find a GIF for 50 slides on a PowerPoint deck, so I found Michael Scott saying PowerPoint over and over and over again. What do y'all think the fifth and last one is?
Make sure your clicker is charged.
This is the one my kids do to me on purpose. They do spinning animations that drive me nuts. Because sometimes if you're doing I gotta stop because I'm gonna get sick. If you're doing a presentation and it's web-based only, it slows it down, it lags, and then people get like seasick from the animations. But in all seriousness, as I've said on almost everything we do, it's an accessibility issue, because that could cause people with visual disabilities, it cause them some problems. So I remember when PowerPoint came out in the 90s, I'm sorry for our students in the room, that was the previous century, when we had dial-up internet. I remember when our teacher started using PowerPoint for the first time, and it was like animation, animation, animation.
Bright
It's
lights, bright lights.
Yeah, you can't focus. And now that we're in 2026, most presentations don't have them. Some of them do it to make a point, and they may be like just a small transition, like a fade. You don't see all the weird stuff, and I wish they would just get rid of all of it, but here we are. So your slides are visual aids, not notes. I have notes on my slides. Normally when I sit down, I'll read them. When I stand, I may just flip to them to make sure I'm in the right cadence and I know where I'm going next. So here is a fun rule that I am going to break in a few slides. It's the 7-7 rule. So the first one, 7 words per line. You think I'm crazy. Now, I should have put an asterisk, like a double asterisk, not board meetings and task forces. But like if you're presenting on audit, or if you're presenting on whatever at a conference, you want it simple because you want it to be scannable. You want it to be easy to be understood. 7 lines per slide. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is 28-point font. So I try to blow it up as big as I can so you can see it from further away. So it forces me to keep everything to about 7-ish lines. There are times I go longer. And then 7 consecutive text heavy slides. I have a star right there, and I'm going to explain why in a moment. So 7. I couldn't find one of the jackpots out. I'm a dork. I'm sorry. So you're 7 words per slide, or 7 words per line. It allows for visual acuity and avoids mental fatigue. Because if we start reading multiple lines, a sentence, a paragraph, your eyes get tired. But if you keep it to one bullet with 7 words, or like this, because I counted every slide to make sure it was 7 words or fewer, you want to keep it limited to 7 words, just so it's easy for your eyes to scan and you're not getting overloaded. So it reinforces brevity, and it forces every word to serve a purpose. It reduces horizontal eye strain, believe it or not, especially reading on a screen in a large conference. Either if you're in the front, you're in the back, or if you're even at your desk on Zoom, trying to read that could hurt your eyes, and that reduces strain. Now, 7 lines per slide makes it digestible. Why would you want your slide to be digestible? And my shoes are squeaky, my apologies.
Well, you don't want to lose your audience.
Yeah, you want them to be able to understand what's there, what you're talking about. Because I didn't cite the source, but cognitive science indicates when you're given too much information, people stop paying attention. It's kind of like when you're at a restaurant when the menu's like 20 pages, like Cheesecake Factory. The human mind is only supposed to have 2 or 3 options at most. After that, and you have excessive information, you start zoning out, or you end up making the wrong decision.
Your attention span shuts down.
Yeah, attention span is less than a goldfish. Just remember that. And keeping slides to 7 lines or fewer forces you to organize by priority. Whereas in a board meeting or a task force meeting, we're going by agenda order. Here, in other presentations, you're going by priority. What is the most important thing? So say if you're a comms or a journalism student, you know about the inverted pyramid, the most important stuff at the top, the least important stuff is at the end. So here's my asterisk. So I said 7 consecutive slides. The third 7 should really be a 5. 775 didn't sound good. 777 sounded really good because I can remember that number. 7 consecutive heavy slides is too much. 5 is about the limits that we can handle. That keeps audience engaged, keeps them alert. Because if you're droning on with, say, 10 straight text slides, you're like, when is lunch? When is this going to end? Please get me out. You're looking for the exit button. It's hard. I mean, I've been in those seminars at my conferences, and I'm like, can you please pick up the pace, make a joke, put something funny on the screen, give me something, right?
Talking like
Yeah.
this.
Well, yeah, and then it all starts to sound the same. Like, I don't remember what you said 7 slides ago, but I'm pretty sure this is the same thing. And breaking up boring slides with visuals. So here's a before and after exercise. I've already done the exercise for you. Tell me what's wrong with this slide.
Oh my gosh.
The text is too small, too much text. The
The
color.
colors.
Sure.
I think the new star. Yeah, the new star used to spin. I think I took it off. Also, first of all, the first thing that came to my attention is the use of Comic Sans. For those that really know me, they know that is the bane of my existence. That is a useless font. But there's a lot of stuff, right? Where do your eyes go to? Do your eyes go to one place first?
No.
No, probably not. Not to mention the gradient is a double gradient. You have a pink font, a red font, and then you can't even read the table right here. it's white text against like I guess a seafoam green color. So you can't make that out. And then I think I counted 12 bullet points. Okay. That is an example. Thanks to Claude for making that for me. Oh, the new does spin. I didn't take it out. So we go from that to this. Let me move this square real quick. So we went from 12 or 13 bullet points, a table, a 2-lined headline that didn't make any sense, to make it simple. Did y'all know on the previous slide, did y'all know that this was communication strategies?
Oh, because
It's now that you could see it, but your eyes were all over the place. You didn't know where to focus.
Right.
So this is about our Q3 communications priorities. So we talk about aligning messaging across regions and LOSFA teams, launching the next phase of our regional convenings, which we're going to convene all of the communication shops of all 40 institutions across the state by region. Finalize our in the know calendar, support Lewis Conference keynote prep, are refreshing our website content, tracking media coverage and social engagement, and then beginning our budget narratives for budget planning in September. But you wouldn't have known any of that trying to read the previous slide. And I couldn't even count the different colors. I would say there was at least 8. Awful, right? Is this much better?
Yes, no doubt.
I thought about doing a visual on this, but I couldn't, like an icon, something. Because sometimes if you notice in some of our task force or board prep stuff, we may throw in an icon that we have on our website or that we use in our materials, especially if it's on like a supporting document, just to make that connection. The most important thing besides your slides and everything is delivering it with confidence. So Brene Brown, one of Dr. Reed's favorite authors, has given multiple TED Talks. Do you see a slide deck in your? Because you got to know your stuff. Now, granted, there's a return monitor right here.
Right.
So she could have notes, which I know I would, but she's clearly delivering with confidence. She's smiling. The way she's standing, she controls the room. So we want to deliver with confidence because your audience wants you to succeed, believe it or not. And confidence is a skill. Most people get nervous when they present. I can tell you I've been teaching for 16 years. My first class was at Baylor University in 2011. It's a night class, 30 students. Supposed to be a 3-hour class on a Monday night. We were out in 19 minutes because all I did was had a sheet of bullet points I want to talk about. And then I walked out and I'm like, that was a disaster. So I started building notes and slides like all my other professors did. But I was nervous. And there's some classes, sometimes the first day of the semester, I'm nervous. When I do these, I get nervous. It's normal. It happens. Dr. Reed gets nervous. Tristan gets nervous. The governor gets nervous. Nervousness is a good sign, I think. It means that you know your stuff. I would be more concerned if you were not nervous. It's weird. I would be more concerned if you're not nervous. Yeah. So if I'm never not nervous, Elise, hit the alarm. There's something wrong. And it's normal to experience anxiety. It's normal to experience a shaky voice. And it's normal to forget words. I mean, it's simple. No matter how many times you prep, and this is what I do in my class at Manship, like you can have a note card or two with notes on it, just to remind yourself. I had one student, I'm not joking, he wrote stuff so small, he was writing his entire thing he was gonna write or read, and he wrote it on a note card, but he lost his place every time because because he wrote it so small. I'm like, dude, just put like 3 or 4 words or like
777.
or inferences like, hey, this event, or hey, this.
Right.
And that should be able to
Trigger something.
trigger something and you're okay. But we all forget stuff.
Right.
It's normal.
So,
So here's some practical tips. You want to pause instead of rushing. You don't want to make a 3-hour night class 19 minutes.
They
Thank
loved you
God.
that night, though.
What's that?
They loved you that
Oh,
night.
they did. That's why I'll never teach another Monday night class again.
Oh, God.
3 hours is a lot. I'll take an hour and 20 any day. You want to slow down. It's not a race. You're not going to get a medal for being the fastest presenter. I'm sure they do have those competitions. Anybody from the older people in the audience? The Micro Machines guy commercials? The guy that spoke fast?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Elise, I'll find a YouTube for you later. And he spoke so fast, and you're like, I have no idea what he's saying. This isn't a race. Slow down. You want people to understand.
Guinness Book of World Records speaker, fastest speaker.
I would love to know if he still is.
Twister, the rapper Twister, I think,
All right.
beat him out. And then I think Busta Rhymes came in there somewhere.
Yeah, I won't be getting any Guinness Book of World Records. You want to breathe between points. You don't want to, again, the first two kind of go in line with the third one. You don't want to rush. You want to slow down. You also want to give each point time to breathe. You want to let people sit on it for 10 seconds for it to sink in. You don't memorize every word. I mean, you're not Shakespeare. You're not performing a play. You're not expected to know every word of every act and where every period and every comma is. It's okay to be conversational. In fact, I think it's desired rather than sounding automated. Hey, look, speak conversationally. Look at people, not slides. The students that are in my class, like Dr. Yandel, I hate looking, like making eye contact. All right, you're in front of the room? Find some on the wall. The people in the classroom think you're looking at them, but if you find like a picture or a point somewhere along the back room, or if a couple and you can bounce back and forth, they think you're talking straight to them, but you're not. So some presentation design tips. I tried finding some really ugly examples on the internet, and believe it or not, I couldn't find any. But for me, limit to 2 fonts. So all of our stuff is templated across the agency so that we're only using Arial. Because Arial's on every single computer, PC or Mac. That differs from our design font, Gotham, because that is not on every PC or Mac. It's a specialty font. So when you're thinking about headlines, Arial bold 36 point. That allows for you to fit 5 to 6 words in the heading in one line. If you go any larger than 36, it starts to become hard to put a short, concise title that doesn't kick to 2 lines. And then in the body, using Arial regular, 28 point. The 28 point body font will force you to keep within 7 lines. If you go any smaller than that, then it allows you to do more. Now, for instance, when we're at a board meeting and it comes to the proprietary schools section, I have to drop it to like 18 point on some slides, and then I have to make multiple slides to continue the list. Because if I keep it at 24, the one line then kicks to 2, and I'm like, we need to keep it 1 to 1 to 1 as much as we can. And then avoid italics and all caps. This is another accessibility thing. Italics can be hard to read from a distance. In all caps, do we want people yelling at us? Sometimes people view all caps on a screen as like they're yelling. Or if you're using 9 exclamation points right after. And then limit your color palette, 3 to 4 max. You'll notice on here, don't count white as a color, but you have blue, you have orange as the trim, and you have black. That's it. Because if you go back to the previous slide example of the really bad one that Claude did, I think the colors were double digits.
Do we still do gray?
We still do gray. It would have to be as a trim or design feature, not as something on a screen. The one thing I will tell you, going back to accessibility, avoid using the color red. The red, especially on these high def screens, is really red and really bright, and bright red is not an accessible color. Now, a dark red, like something vermilionish to maroon, is better, but like I'm talking like stop sign red, that will fail every accessibility feature.
Like that red up there. You stop it here.
Yeah, sort of like that, yeah. Just because it comes off so harshly.
Right.
And even for someone that doesn't have visual disabilities, I mean, it hurts my eyes. So I can't imagine how it affects those that do have that.
Right.
And then you want to ensure high contrast. What I mean by that is white background, you want dark text. So the accessibility workshop I did, I think earlier this year or last year, I had an example of a light gray font on a gray box and you couldn't read it. So you either want to do like a black text on a white background, or if you're doing a blue background, a dark blue, you want white font. That's going to help, but you have to make sure that high contrast, you can tell that there is a difference and that you can read it. And then visual substitutes. So I mentioned icons. Sometimes we will use those on slides, especially for task forces, reports that were given during board meetings, shapes, diagrams. I didn't put any of those in this, but we do a lot of design in Illustrator or in Photoshop to give those visual cues. And even in PowerPoint, you have the ability to do shapes and diagrams. They're not bad. Sometimes it doesn't do what I want to do and I just want to delete it all, but you do have that function in there. And you can change the colors of the font and the boxes so that it makes sure it fits your schematic. All right, so winding down. So anybody knows what this is a screenshot of?
Hollywood Squares.
Hollywood Squares. Because Zoom looks like the Hollywood Squares. There's so many boxes and so many people looking at you. Who do you look at? So now that we have virtual and hybrid meetings, which this is a hybrid meeting, so I'm looking at those in the room and not at the faces on the screen. So here's some things to remember. You want to look at the camera. I am terrible at this because if I'm on a screen and there's like 3 or 4 people on the screen, I'm looking at the person. I'm not looking at the camera because I feel weird looking up when I'm still trying to talk to the person that's on the screen. And I know a lot of people probably do that. It's weird, but I'm terrible at that. Check lighting and audio, also known as avoid hostage style videos. You don't want the light behind you. Because if the light is behind you, or if your windows are open in the afternoon, it creates a shadow in front of you, so it looks like a hostage video. So you want the lighting in front of you. And if it's, say if you're in the afternoon and you have windows in your office, close the blinds, that'll get most of the glare out. Or if you're at home, you want to make sure you have even one of those little ring lights, if you really need it, put in front of you to help. But you always want to check lighting and audio. You want to avoid reading from the screen. And then you want to use energy intentionally. What I mean by that is not everything needs to be said with 9 exclamation points when we're on a Zoom presentation. You want to use that energy intentionally, because if everything is said with all of those verbal exclamation points, then people are going to tune you out, because what really is important? It's kind of like the Michael Scott skit on The Office when he put everything at high importance on his emails, then he started adding 911 to his subject line. At some point, people are going to stop paying attention if everything seems like it has a sense of urgency. And then you want to pause for interaction. So handling nerves, I'll go with this real quick. Start with familiar material. So if you're nervous, don't start off with like what stuff you just found or you just read yesterday. Start off slow with things you know, because you know the material. If you start off with something that you just read or just learned and you stumble out of the gate, it's over. How are you going to recover?
In class in 19 minutes.
Yes, sir. I think I got decent course evaluations for that class too. You want to arrive early. As I tell my kids, early's on time is late. So if I'm not scheduled in 30 meetings in a day, you'll always notice I'm at least 5 to 10 minutes early everywhere. You want to practice your openings and you want to keep water nearby because you're talking, you get parched. And then if you're struggling to talk and you need water, it looks like you're struggling. And as I mentioned, your audiences want you to succeed. No one is signing up for me to look like an idiot or for you to look like an idiot. They want to genuinely learn. They want you to do well. They're not signing up to see you fail with a basket of tomatoes and throw them at you. That's not what audiences want. They want you to do well. So your key takeaways, you want to focus on the audience, simplify your message, which tends to be something I talk about often in these. Your slides should support, not overwhelm. So you don't want a novella on the screen. You want simple bullets, simple takeaways. Your confidence improves with practice. It's taken me 15 years to get to this point where I feel comfortable in front of a room of 500, 400, and I can speak. 2011, I'm in the corner sucking my thumb, rocking back and forth because I'm like, I don't want to do this. It takes practice. And like I tell my students every semester, the more you do it, you may not ever become 100% comfortable, but you'll get better. You won't be hyperventilating, but it comes with doing it over and over again. And in clarity over complexity. So you want people to simply understand. If it's too complex, what are they going to take away when they go back to their office and they tell their boss, or their boss asks them, what'd you learn? There were these charts and graphs. It looked like stereo instructions in a foreign language. Or can you simply rattle off like 4 or 5 key points because they were delivered clearly and they were easy to be understood? So great presenters are not the ones with the fanciest slides. They're the people who make others understand. Again, I am not that person, but I found that quote somewhere and I'm like, that makes sense. I think it's important because we can have the prettiest slides. A lot of people say we have the prettiest slides when we go to conferences, but it's on us to make people understand them and not make them busy and make it easy for people to follow. So all of this stuff is normal, is going to be put on the library later today. I hope I have a leadership Baton Rouge luncheon here shortly, so I have to skedaddle. But I will also email everyone who registered. I'll email them the PowerPoint, a digital version of the handout for those that weren't here. And then, as always, the survey. So if y'all want to whip out your phone now, if you're here, or if you're on the screen, you can. I will say that this workshop series last year did win a Red Stick Award, and it almost won a national award with the Government Communicators Association.
Congratulations, sir.
So that's not why I do it, but it goes to show that there's an appetite at other places for this and people want to replicate it. But I can only get better based on the feedback. So I think there's 2 open-ended questions. Usually there's 5 like Likert scale questions from strongly agree to strongly disagree. And then there's like 2 open-ended ones. So please, if you can just take a few minutes today to fill them out, be honest, I read them all. It's very hard to hurt my feelings. You can tell me I talk too much, get off my screen, whatever. End of presentation. The screaming ostrich says it's over. So I would normally open this up for questions, but because of my timing, I cannot. But for our friends on Zoom, I will email everything out this afternoon. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm always happy to go over any presentations you're gonna give if you need feedback. I am the person that goes over all the slides here. I don't know how to quantify that on my resume or job description. But thank you, Aitiana. But we give so many presentations and sometimes they don't follow the same task force board formula. They may be different. You may be wanting to try something different. And I'm happy to step through with that because I'm gonna have to like put together my own TED style talk in October. And because I'm a nerd, I'm starting now because I want to make sure I'm on the right track. But also to say that some presentations do take time. I mean, there's sometimes I start on Dr. Reed's stuff, at least the visuals, 2 months in advance, and then we'll go in and we'll see if we can match the speech. And then sometimes we end up switching stuff around. So it's not a 24-hour process. It is a weeks and months process. So again, I greatly appreciate you wanting to spend an hour of your time with me. I hope this was helpful. I hope for our students, if you need any presentation help, Michelle will show you where I'm at. And hope y'all all have a great day.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
It was good. It was awesome. I'll do my, what you call it? I gotta skip
My
down too.
presentation. You're right.